Hey everybody, welcome to Enterprise Conversations from the Node.js Foundation. I'm Michael Rogers, and with me is Adam Geichi, Director of Software Engineering at Groupon. Hey Adam, how you doing?
Good. Hi, Michael. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Good.
All right, so let's just get into a little bit about tell me about your role at Groupon and how y'all are using Node.
Sure. So I'm a director of engineering at Groupon. I've been at Groupon 5 years. When I first started at Groupon, we were a totally Ruby on Rails shop, and the everything you know as Groupon.com was one big monolith. So a couple of years ago, about 4 years ago, we decided to rebuild that, and we looked at a bunch of software platforms, and we decided that for a lot of reasons, Node.js was the one we wanted to build with. So since then, we've rebuilt our entire web layer on top of Node.js. So my job now is I manage the team that builds that platform and builds the framework that the other product teams use to build and ship Node apps in production. We also build and release several open source libraries that we've built along the way in that process. So we have a couple things like Gopher, which is an API client library we use to talk to backend services, a caching library called Node Cached, and Testium, which is a Selenium-based browser integration testing tool for Node. I think you're muted, Michael.
Oh my God, I'm sorry, I was just
No
talking for
problem.
like a whole minute.
I'm sure it was awesome.
Yes. Yeah, no, I was just saying, it sounds like you're really using it all over. Yeah, you have like a back end and then a kind of front end back end tier, as well as, testing and front end. Is there anything that you're not doing with Node.js
Yeah,
exactly?
so I would say our heaviest use is definitely on that web tier. Our architecture is we have a bunch of backend services, something like 300 or 400. We have an API integration layer on top of that, and then we have our client apps, and we consider our website one of our client apps. We have iOS, Android, and web, and all of the web layer is built in Node. A lot of the backend is built in a mix of Java. There's some Ruby and a few other things, but mostly Java. So we use it very heavily for our front end, and then kind of here and there for other uses, a couple back-end purposes. But really, the web is our biggest use of Node. We've got something like 70 production Node apps right now, and we use that to support traffic in 30 countries and 4 data centers that we run.
Wow, wow, that's a really big use case. That's great. So, I mean, as you moved over to Node, because you mentioned that you were built on some other stuff for a while,
Mhm.
and then you kind of migrated to Node. What were some of the large effects and results that you got when you started moving to Node, both in terms of your team and then also in terms of the infrastructure?
Yeah, so our motivation originally wasn't so much like a language choice. It was more, we had this monolithic app that had worked well for a long time, but we outgrown and just become hard to maintain. And in Groupon's history, we also made a bunch of acquisitions years ago. So we ended up with not just our Rails stack, but we ended up with a Java stack in Europe and a PHP stack in South America. And we were looking for something to replace all of those. And the reason we chose Node for that was both because it was, JavaScript is as close to a universal language as you can get with people building on the front end. So it was the easiest for all of those people to learn and use. But also, we tested the performance and scaling of it, and Node worked well enough that we were pretty happy with it. So not only did it allow us to unify our development and build with a language that was easy for people to learn or they already knew, but it also gave us some performance improvements in some cases, which altogether was a win-win for us.
That's great. That sounds like a lot of stories that I've heard actually. So it's great. Although not all the stories that I hear include multiple acquisitions and foreign
Yeah,
countries.
yeah, it's kind of a messy history, but it's much simpler now. And there also has been some cool side effects, like sometimes we'll write code to support a web app in JavaScript, like a service client library or a caching library or something, and then we'll have another use case that's also in JavaScript, and we'll be able to reuse that same code. We don't go for that, uh, you know, isomorphic JavaScript, try and make everything on the front end and back end exactly the same. But we've had lots of cases where we could reuse code that was really nice and helpful.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really does that. I think that
Yeah.
everybody does like a little bit of that, and
Yeah.
then the real benefits are just having a unified language and skill set and
Yeah,
a lot of the
exactly.
communication between people. Yeah, so looking into the future a little bit, what do you expect to be doing with Node and in Groupon, moving forward?
Yeah, we are totally invested in Node for the web platform. We've had a lot of people, and we've tried to standardize on Java for the backend side, but we've had a lot of cases where a team is really familiar with Node from building a front end service and needs to build a backend service to support that, and have been asking to use Node in the backend. So we've seen more and more cases of that, especially for internal tools. We're looking at kind of expanding the use cases we can use Node for in the company. We're also really excited about just the speed that Node itself is improving, and uh, we're pretty much all on Node 4 in production now, but we're really excited about Node 6. As soon as the LTS version is out, we're planning to switch pretty much everything over to it. One of the nice things about that is it has enough of the new ES 2015 features baked into it that we won't be using any kind of transpiling or anything to write modern JavaScript, which is our developers really like. And in the past, because of our history with Ruby and some other reasons, we've been using CoffeeScript a lot, and it's a great chance for us to finally migrate off of CoffeeScript and pretty much standardize on plain JavaScript, which is also pretty exciting for us. Um, Another big thing we're working on now is in moving away from a model where our developers maintain their own servers and deploy, their Node app to 3 or 4 or 10 servers, and moving to a model where we provide them a cluster of servers and their app just runs on it more in like a Heroku model. And we're using Mesos to build out that cluster, and we're currently have that in production in Europe, and we're looking to expand that for all of our Node services, which I think is a nice sweet spot between a language and framework that's easy to build in, but also makes operations a lot easier for the app teams that manage it. So we're pretty excited about that too.
Right, so you're moving to an infrastructure that's more kind of language agnostic.
Hmm.
So you're using Mesos and some containers, I imagine, for all that
Hmm.
stuff.
Yeah, the apps will run in Docker containers, and the cluster will be managed with a mix of the basic platform from Mesosphere, and then some other tooling and integrations and load balancer stuff that we built or integrated with it here at Groupon.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the impetus for this is to do some Node stuff, but you can also use other languages
Yeah.
to build out this infrastructure as well. I mean, what do you see as the advantages of using Node inside of that infrastructure?
Well, the reason we started with Node is really because it was our most uniform platform at Groupon. So even though we use Java for a lot of backend services, the frameworks and ways Java was used was pretty diverse. So this gives us a way to move a large chunk of our software onto one platform in one swoop and figure out all the problems that come with that, and especially all the problems of serving traffic directly to the consumers. And then after we tackle that, then the next step we want to do is the remaining stuff, like figure out how to host databases on it, or figure out the right way to interface databases with apps running in it. So it just gave us a good way to contain the problem while also freeing up our developers from maintaining their own servers, which is a big win for us.
That sounds awesome. Really exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. That was great, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is really fun. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Thanks for your time. Great.